Hello everybody, it's Jen, Scrapbena Creations. I am so excited. It's release day for the October 2018 Flavor of the Month card kit by Scrapping for Less. This is the Christmas kit and it is amazing. I've done an unboxing video as well, which you will find posted at the same time that this video goes live. So if you want to check out the contents of the kit, go ahead and check that video out as well. I did split them up just because this video is already a long one. So I hope that you are nice and cozy and warm. Maybe you have a cup of coffee or tea or hot chocolate while you watch this and see all the amazing stamps, papers, and cards that I'm going to create using the kit today. So I have 4 cards for you today. I'm starting with the first card, this adorable Santa Claus in the chimney. So as always, I've left the coloring in for those of you who like to see the colors that I've used. And this image was super easy to color. It's a nice big image, and when you're using just dark grays and reds and whites, it colors up really quickly. So I'm just coloring the mittens now for Santa. I thought I would have them black so that it ties in with the chimney, which I'm also going to do black. I've colored up his little Santa suit and his hat in red already. Here I'm just adding the darkest shades underneath the top of the chimney and to the sides because the way it's illustrated, it's kind of coming in at the sides, so I do want to make it look rounded. So I'm using the darkest colors for this, the C9, the C7, and the C5. I'm going to use the C3 and the C1 to do some shading for the whites. So here I'm also going to do the top of the chimney just 1 shade lighter than the bottom so that you can see the difference between the top of the chimney and the bottom. So I'm using C5, C3, and C1. I'm going to use the C1 here for the snow and blend that out with the colorless blender. And then for the whites on his outfit, I'm just going to use the C1 with the blender marker. And for his eyebrows, his mustache, and his beard, I'm going to use some warm grays. So it looks a little bit different than the inanimate objects, such as the kind of fluffy parts of his outfit. And it gives a really nice dimension. So I'm just going to add a touch of color here, and you can see how his beard and his mustache is really kind of coming to life here. I will go back and do the eyebrows. I kind of forgot them while I was doing this. So I'm going to do them now. And just going to add a little bit more rosy cheeks there, and for his mouth, use my black gel pen for the eyes, and then I'm just going to fussy cut out this image. It was super simple. So I've already gone ahead and cut everything out to save time. So I've grabbed some white glitter cardstock from my stash, and I've cut that out using a hillside border from Lawn Fawn. I used the tag die that I got in my kit to cut one of the pattern papers, as well as a piece of vellum. And then with the white glitter cardstock from my stash, I've used that as a border for my card, and then I'm using this adorable Santa paper as the background for where I'm going to lay down the tag. So I just wanted to make sure that that stuck really well to the glitter paper, so I just used my stamp block to just push it down really nice and give it a couple minutes to adhere. Had a little trouble getting this vellum piece on. So I'd added adhesive to the bottom because I knew the snowbank was going to go over top of that. So this is kind of like snow on the roof. I'm going to add that to the bottom of the tag. And then I'm going to get this tag into place. So I'm just using some liquid glue here. My tape runner, my ATG gun, totally died when I was making this first card, so I'm using glue for most of these cards today. So I'm using some Tombow Mono Extreme Adhesive here for the sentiment banner. That's because I want it to stick nicely to that white glitter cardstock, and I'm going to put that on the bottom. I did use the card sketch number 4, My Favorite Things, for this one. I forgot to show it at the beginning. I was a little off my game when I started this. So now I'm just going to adhere that vellum piece down behind the Santa, which is perfect. It'll sit there nicely. Added a bow with the ribbon from the kit. I'm going to use the stickles that I got in my kit as well. Those are the frosted lace, and I'm going to put that over the snow. And then for the white parts of his outfit, I'm going to use my Spectrum Noir glitter brush marker. For the inside of the card, I'm stamping the sentiment, "Be good for goodness sake," which I thought was really cute with the sentiment on the front that said, "Is that you, Santa Claus?" So there's the sketch, very similar, made it my own, and card number 1 is complete. So there's a close-up. And let's jump into card number 2. So for card number 2, I'm using the Stamping Bella exclusive. And you see here's my first mistake. And I'm like, oh, I colored the snow on the top of the card. This was actually the second time I colored this, and I did the same thing the first time. But it's okay, I'm going to leave it. It's not worth starting over. I'll show you how I'm going to fix that near the end. So I'm using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers here to color in this image. I have stamped it out on some Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I've heat embossed that with some clear embossing powder. I stamped it out with some VersaFine Black Onyx ink, and this will just help separate between the various parts of the image, so hopefully stuff doesn't run quite as much. So I'm using paintbrushes. These paintbrushes are by Ranger. They're extremely affordable, and I find I get better blending with a paintbrush and water than I do when I try to use a water brush, but it's really up to you and your preference. So give it a try with both. If you're having trouble with the water brush, try using a paintbrush. I find a bigger sized paintbrush than you actually think you need helps blend the colors around better. So go one size up from what you think you would normally gravitate towards to color the image. So this was fairly simple to color because there aren't too many colors in the image. I'm not coloring any of the Christmas baubles or the Christmas ornaments, nor am I coloring any of the Christmas lights at this time. I'll show you what I'm going to do for that at the end of the card. So just about finished up, just getting the tires done on the car. I'm going to use what's left on my paintbrush to put a little bit of shadow down underneath the car where the stamp has what would look like maybe it's driving in the snow. I'm going to come back in and do one more layer of the car. I'm using the same color I did the first time. And then for the ground, I'm actually going to come back with a blue-gray marker, just so it's not so gray looking and perhaps your eye would think that it might be snow. So once I get this colored up, I'm going to add another layer of green. So I'm going in actually this time with a darker green, just where the tree lines are, because that would cast a natural shadow. So I'm going to blend that in, leaving a lot of the lighter green there, which I think gives it some nice shading. And then I am just going to go to the back of the top. I'm going to go back to the top there and just add the tiniest bit that's already on my paintbrush, just so that it ties in. So here's where I'm using the blue-gray. At this point, I didn't really know what I was going to do with this image, if I was going to paint or do some sort of background. In the end, I just leave it the way it is. I'm going to dry that up a little bit, and then we'll move on to where I'm fixing where I colored the snow. So I'm just using clean water here, laying it down, letting it sit a bit, and then dabbing it up with a paper towel. So I'm going to use this sketch number 4, which is by Viva La Verve. And I'm loosely going to use the sketch. I'll put it to the side here so you can kind of see. So I'm making a square card, which I do not do very often. but I thought the size of the image lent really well to this size of a card. So I'm doing a 5x5 card. I'm using various pattern papers from the kit. I was picking ones with blues and greens and pinks in it. I do a lot of pink with these cards. I guess 2 out of 4 of them have quite a bit of pink accent. So here's where I'm going to end up placing the panel where I've colored my image. Just putting that down with some liquid glue. I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says shine bright. I love to mix and match the stamp sets, the pattern papers with the kits. I don't typically stay within one collection for a single card. So I'm kind of all over the place, but I like to show the versatility of the kits, and just because they come in collections, it doesn't mean you actually have to stick to the collections when you're making your cards. Of course, if that's the way you like to do it, then I always say you do you. That's the beautiful thing about card making. So I ended up adding some more of the ribbon from the kit. I thought, seeing I had it, I should try to use up as much as possible. I'm going to adhere that down to the card base, which I just made out of some 110-pound heavyweight cardstock. I'm going to bring the frosted lace, is that what it is? Frosted lace stickles back in for the snow. I did speed this up quite a bit, but I wanted to leave it in because I feel like this is what really made the card come to life. So I'm adding some of that to the tree just to make it look like there's some snow on the tree as well. And for the Christmas ornaments and the Christmas lights, I'm going to use some Nouveau drops. So I'm using Caribbean Ocean for the blue. The red is Red Berry, and the pink that I'm going to use is Carnation Pink. And this is where I think, like I said, the card really comes to life. It just gives it that added element, and that makes it so fun and whimsical, just like the illustration. So I'm going to finish up doing the Christmas lights, and then I'm going to bring in the pink. So with the Christmas lights, I just skipped. I knew there was 3 colors, so I was able to skip 2 in between each color, and then I had them evenly spaced. Isn't that cute? I love how it gives it dimension and it just really pops off the card. So I've added my bow now. I'm just going to trim that up. And I was having a little bit of trouble with the bow. I ended up adding some glue dots inside where the bow kind of connects so it doesn't move. Of course, when I was fixing the bow, I got my hand in the Nouveau drops, so I had to fix that up a little bit. I'm going to stamp the sentiment Season's Greetings on the inside. This is the stamp that came with the Stamping Bella card. Stamp, not card. I'm seeing the card, but I want to say stamp. So there's card number 2 done. So now we're going to move on to card number 3 and these cute little critters out caroling over the holidays. This was an exclusive stamp set made by Pink and Main, which is so fun. Oh, adorable. So I'm going to color up the little reindeer here, and I'm using some E markers, E18, E15, and E13. I wanted the deer to have a little bit of a reddish brown color. I'm going to color the bear in more of a darker kind of chocolate brown color, and I wanted them to look different. So I'm just blending the colors here. And then I realized I had the wrong marker in my hand, but that's okay. So I went back with the lightest, and that really gives this little cutie the color that it needs to finish off the image nicely. So I'm going to go in and do the other elements a little bit lighter. So I'm going to bring in the E11 for that, just to give it a little bit of difference. I'm also bringing in the E51, which I didn't realize you couldn't see the cap, but this is going to give it almost like a vanilla kind of light brown coloring. So on to the bear. Here's where I'm going to use the E27, the E25, and the E23. These images are fairly tiny. You could probably get away with doing 2-color blending here. I am going to do 2-color blending for the little hats and scarves just because those stripes are so tiny. But this didn't take very much to color at all. The animals themselves took the longest. So I'm going to get him finished up. For the little songbooks, I'm just going to do those in a white. I'm going to do the penguin first though, and I'm going to color him in a lighter black color, and I'm using C3 there just to lay it down, just to get the cardstock wet. I use Spectrum Noir premium cardstock. It's what I learned to color on with my Spectrum Noirs, and I've just stuck with it. I really like it. You do get some of the Nina cardstock in the card kit. You'll get 2 sheets, which are alcohol friendly papers, and so you can use those and see what you think. I'm just going to color up this little penguin. Here's where I'm using the C3 marker, and then I'm going to bring in the C1 and my colorless blender to blend out the areas that I want white. Also going to do the little penguin's face. So cute. I love that he gives a little bit of a contrast of color in between the 2 brown critters. I'm going to blend that out, make sure it's nice and smooth. It will dry back quite a bit lighter than how it looks on screen when you first use the blender pen. I love these cute little guys. They're adorable. I love how Scrapping for Less has exclusive stamps in their kit that you can't get anywhere else. It's just fun, and it means that you don't have to worry about subscribing to a kit where you might already have some of the stamps. So it's always a fun surprise to see what exclusives are in the kit, and I love opening my kit every month. So now I'm just going to work on the little accessories here. I'm using blues, pinks, and greens so that it goes with the pattern paper that I'm going to be using for this card. These areas, like I said, are really tiny, so I'm just using 2 colors for each of them. You could probably get away with just using 1 if you wanted to. Nobody's really going to see the detail in the little colors on their clothing. But I feel like the pops of color just really bring these to life. So I'm going to do the beak and the feet on the penguin. I'm not a fan of orange on a good day, but definitely not in Christmas cards as well. So I'm using a golden color there, and I just had to pull out my Spectrum Noir markers for that. Adding a little bit of pink, and now I'm going to use my BG10 marker to make it look like they're standing in snow while they're caroling. Blend that out with the colorless blender. I'm going to bring in my black gel pen here, adding some detail to the noses and the eyes, and then I'm going to bring in my white gel pen. Not too much detailing on these images because they are so tiny, just a couple spots just to bring them to life a little bit more. Once I do that, I am going to fussy cut out the image, and then we'll move on to making the card here. So I'm using sketch number 1. This sketch is the deconstructed sketch. So I'm using this loosely. It's a square card in the sketch. I've turned it to a landscaped card. I'm using this pink snowflake paper that I absolutely adore as the main paper for the background. Then this plaid paper for the back stripe there. I cut out a piece of the pink cardstock that comes in the kit with a scalloped die, and then this snow paper. It's like a sky scene with some snow going through it with a stitched circle die. Trim that off. I'm going to place that there, and then there's that strip on the bottom. I'm just going to use a white strip. Now I did lose some footage from this card, but basically you will see mostly how I completed it. So here's where I put this sentiment strip on. I do end up adding some fun foam to the side that's hanging off of the scalloped because it is quite raised with those 2 additional layers of paper. This was actually the perfect height to have it nice and flush with that panel. So I stamped out the sentiment "Joy to the World," and I added my little critters onto the card. Now I'm just using some Nuvo drops. I feel like this card needs a little bit something extra in that top corner. I may go back and add some sequins, we'll see. But overall, I think this turned out really cute. So here's the sketch, and here's how my card turned out. So we'll move on to card number 4, the final card. I did skip through some of the coloring. I didn't color the reindeer on screen because I used the same colors for this reindeer as I did in the previous card. And I end up not using the penguin or the Christmas tree, so I'm just going to show you how I colored the little elf. I'm using quite a dark green marker here for the darkest shadows. I will use the G28 and then take my YG17 and just touch that lightly to get a smoother blend. But I really like how that darker color really comes to life on this image. That's a new marker for me, and normally I just use the YG17, the YG25, and the YG03, but I do like the look that that darkest color is giving for a bit of shadow. And I think my YG03 is running out, which is not good during Christmas time because I don't have the refill yet. But we will make do. I decided to color his little leggings in yellows, so this is more of a yellowy gold color combination. It's the same color I used for the little reindeer character's hair. So I'm just going to do the part of his hat and his little stockings like I said. I will go back and catch that I missed coloring the little jingle bell on the bottom at the end of his hat. So I'll color that up the same colors. Now I'm just doing his skin, and I'm doing it in a very light color. I'm gonna add some black for the tiniest bits of hair that's showing under the hat. I'm gonna do the belt and also his little elf shoes, which is so cute. I love how it looks like he's kind of kicking his heels up in the air. So I'm adding some blush, and then I'm going to finish off with the Christmas bauble in his hand. And then I'm going to add some detailing. So I decided to do something different and to add little black dots for the cheeks because I didn't realize that that one black dot on the image is their cheeks, and I added some pink and I thought it looked a little funny. So I just added a couple more dots on either side, so there was 3. I was thinking maybe it could just be the little cheeks, but also some freckles, and I'm adding some white gel pen to that as well. So again, I'm just going to fussy cut those images out, and this card is so simple, but I think it's actually my favorite. So I cut out one of the pattern papers with a stitched rectangle die, the largest one from Lawn Fawn. I loved that pattern paper that said North Pole. I cut out an oval with a stitched oval die, added a little bit of tumbled glass distress oxide ink to that just to make it look like there was a little bit of snow in the background and it matched the blue on the card. I'm going to adhere that right down, and I'm going to add my 2 cute little characters in their reindeer and elf costume right on the front of that. I did pop them both up with some fun foam. I'm going to give them a little bit of grounding, so I'm using C3, C1, and then I will blend that out with the colorless blender. And then I'll stamp my sentiment on the inside, and again I'm just going to use the one that says "Be good for goodness sake." So cute. I love it. So there's card number 4 complete. I'll show you all of the cards again here. Thanks for joining me today. Have a wonderful day. Let me know which one was your favorite, and I'll see you really soon in another video. Thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.